Welcome to Lesson 3 of Learning to Read Sumerian. This week we're going to be looking at the case endings that appear on nouns. These are also called nominal case endings. So let's get started. So what are case endings? How do they function? What do they do? And we're going to look at what the nominal case endings are individually so that we can see how they appear in the text. And we'll look at some of the nuances of each of the nominal case endings. Then we're going to see our vocabulary list for the week, go through portions of the exercises, and then we'll view the new signs. So what are case endings? Well, essentially they function like prepositions for the most part. So for example, in the sentence, Jimmy goes to the store, the word to is a preposition. Tells you something about his motion in relation to the store. So he's going toward it. He's going to it. Susan walks into the house. So into is the preposition. It's telling you that Susan is moving from outside of the house into the midst of the house. Frank runs from the football field. So again, it's talking about the relationship between Frank and the football field spatially. So from is the preposition. Well, in Sumerian, prepositions are represented by these case endings, these little forms that are attached to the end of nouns or noun phrases. You see that the case ending ta, so the dash means that it's attached to it, ta means from. So if A2 means house, A2 ta means from the house. Da means with. So lutu da would be with the man. Shethri means to or toward. So if you have Eden Shethri, you have toward the field or the steppe or the plain. So motion toward this. So it might say the man is walking toward the Eden. Ra means to or for. So if someone speaks, they will often speak to the king, for example. So lugal ra would be to the king. The ergative is a special case, something that we as English speakers might not be familiar with. Sumerian does not mark the subject of an intransitive verb. So if you remember from a couple of lessons ago, an intransitive verb is a verb that the subject does not act on anything. It doesn't require a direct object. So John walks. You don't walk. He's not walking something in that sentence. He's just walking. Fred swims. That's an intransitive verb. There's no object there that he's acting upon. But Johnny hit the ball. The ball is an object. It's a direct object of the verb hit. So Johnny is hitting something. He's hitting the ball. That's a transitive verb. Well, Sumerian doesn't mark the subject of an intransitive verb. It only marks the subject of a transitive verb. And they call that the agent. So let's put this into easier terms. So Jimmy hits the ball. Well, is this transitive or intransitive? Right, it is transitive. So Jimmy hits the object, which is the ball. Well, in Sumerian, what they would do is they would say Jimmy E. And that would tell you that Jimmy is the agent. He's the subject of a transitive verb. Now, if this said Mark swims, there would be no E here. It would just say Mark swims because Mark would be the subject of an intransitive verb. So if you see an E, I know this sounds a little confusing, but if you see an E on a noun, look for a verb that is transitive because that's probably what's happening is you have a subject that is the subject of a transitive verb. Now, after a vowel, the ergative marker, that E, may or may not appear. Sometimes it will have Val Harmony. And Val Harmony means that the vowel changes to reflect the sound of a vowel around it. So in this case, lugal e might appear lugal u. Notice it's harmonizing with this u back here, lugal u. Ama e might appear ama a. So vowel harmony between these vowels, ama a instead of ama e. The dative, to or for, is marked with ra. So, in the sentence, in English so that we can understand it, I built the house for Jimmy, we would write it in Sumerian, sort of. I built the house, Jimmy, ra. I built the house for Jimmy. After a vowel, ra can appear as ear or air. So, for example, depending on the vowel. Instead of it being lugal la ni ra for his king, it would be lugal la ni ear. A marks the locative, which is in or into. So, Jimmy walks into the house, they would write, Jimmy walks the house, a. Jimmy walks into the house. Unfortunately, E can also mark what's called the locative terminative, or you'll hear me refer to it as the loc term. This means to or near to, and a good way to think about it is coming up to something but not going into it, being up against it, for example. So, a very common use of the loc term is to mark the second, what we call the oblique object of a compound verb. Remember we talked about compound verbs in the last lesson. Compound verbs are like what we see here with guthrie detu. Guthrie detu means to say or to speak, because guthrie means voice, detu means to pour out, and they put those two together. Like ki ong tu, we saw that last week. Shu ti, I think we saw. So the way that these compound verbs work is this is the verb, technically speaking, and guthrie is its object. If you think about it, to pour out what? To pour out the voice. So this is actually the first object of this verb, right? To pour out the voice. But because this acts as a verb itself together, how do you mark the object of this verb if this is already the object of it? Well, what they do is they say, we're going to mark it with, we're going to call that a second object out here, right? This is the first object, this would be the second object. And the way they mark that second object of a compound verb is with E, often. So, its king spoke to the house. That loc term very, very frequently will mark the second object or the oblique object of a compound verb. Don't worry about memorizing that just yet. Just sort of be aware of it. When it comes up, I'll point it out, and after you see it about 35 times, you'll go, oh yeah, okay, I got it. Shethri. Shethri is the terminative. And what that means is you go to or towards something. Ta. Ta marks the ablative, which means from. So if you're going away from the house, it would say etu ta. Da is the comitative. It means with. So lu tu da, I'm standing with the man. Lu tu man da. Gin 7. Gin 7 is the equative. It means like or as. So it is like bronze. You would say bronze, gin 7, like bronze. Now, one more that I want to mention here is the copula. The copula is also attached to nouns or noun phrases, and it's basically the linking verb, to be. He is would be am 3. So if you put am3 on the end of a noun or a noun phrase, you would say he or it is. So for example, Lugal am3, he is the king. If this were etu, you would say it is the house. The first and second person singular is me'en. So me'en, I am or you are. So lugal me'en could be I am the king. It could also be you are the king. Let's take a look at the vocabulary for the week. Nish. Nish. Sounds like that Knights of Ni would say that in Monty Python. Anyhow, nish. So, sorry. Nish means wood. This is also a determinative. You will see it in superscript, and it identifies that object as a wooden object. Z, which has a D auslaut, so you'll sometimes see zid or zida, zid. Z means true or right or correct, Detu, to bring or to carry. Water. Shir Bor La Ki. Shir Bor La Ki is the city of Lagash. I'm giving you this one because you're going to see it an awful lot in the inscriptions we're going to do. But these all together make the word Lagash. Shir Bor La Ki. And we'll talk about this type of a construction later. Dinger Enlil 2 is Enlil. A11, which is also Ed 3, it has a D auslaut. A11 or Ed 3 means to go up or down, to ascend or descend, depending on the context. Sha 3 is heart or middle. Shu is hand. Esh 3 is a shrine. A is father. Iggy is eye. Iggy bar is to look at. This is another one of those compound verbs. Id2 or I7 is river. So I7 has a D auslaut. Il2 is to raise or to carry. And then finally, munus is woman. So here are your exercises. Notice here, lu2 da. How would you translate that? A2 she 3. A ba diri. Diri means to float. If you don't know what any of these words mean, you can look them up in EPSD online, but ba diri, just take this to mean it floats. Lugal A2 A, E3 Nyen. I don't remember if I've given you Nyen yet, but you can definitely see that on EPSD. Lugal Le A2 Mu Du 3. Dinger N Lil 2 Ra. Dinger Nana. B2 In Du 11. And finally Utu Ta. Dinger Utu E3 Nyen. Then we have finally our signs for the week. So Nyesh for wood, Z, Shu, N, Lil 2, La, Ta, and Ra. So commit those to memory, make flashcards. We have a flashcard program that we recommend, Flashcards Deluxe. I can make lists for you if you like. Email me, digitalhammurabi@gmail.com. If you have any questions, as always, about the lesson, please feel free to email me and ask. We can work through it. We can have a private hangout if you like. If you have any quick questions, it's no problem at all. But try to memorize these vocabulary lists, try to memorize the signs. And when we get to actually reading through the tablets, I think you're going to find that it'll be very exciting because you'll know, oh, I know that sign. Oh, I know that sign. And I know what that word means. It's a lot of fun when you actually get to sit down and read the text. So have a good time. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks for our Google Hangout. Until then.